Hey everybody. So, my guest today is Iris. She's the founder of Oribi, a unique marketing analytics tool that captures every single event visitors perform on your website, all without using code. So, Iris, are you ready to take us to the top?
Sure. Hi, Mike.
All right. So, first off, can you tell us a bit more about Oribi? How would you describe it?
So, Oribi is a no-code marketing analytics. So you can think about tools like Google Analytics, for example, or more heavy tools, enterprise-oriented tools that are always as good as their data. So something that probably all of you know is how much work you invest in adding events, collecting data, working with developers, and that's what we're trying to do very differently to Oribi. So as if you're building a website on Wix or Shopify, imagine the same for collecting data. So it really collects all the data from the website, understands the user behavior, tags everything, and on top of it, you have all of the main marketing analytics tools and features such as funnels and correlations and the audiences and customer journeys and conversion analysis and channel analysis and attribution.
Okay, so obviously a big competitor of Google Analytics. So, what would you say is the one thing that differentiates you from Google Analytics? Why should people switch?
Yeah. So the main reason is that you don't need to use developers and you're able to get the full customer journey. So it's completely no code. As a marketing team, you can be independent. You can ask any question you like. All the data is retroactive. So yeah, the main differentiation between Google Analytics and Oribi is around the customer journey and having all the data automated.
Great. Sounds really good. So, what's the business model of Oribi? How are you making money?
So we're a plain SaaS company. Some of the customers pay on a monthly basis, some of them pay on an annual basis, and we have several plans according to the traffic of the website and to how many other tools to export data coming from Oribi. So one thing that I didn't mention is that you can export all of the no-code data to create audiences on Facebook, Google, and soon we're going to have integrations with HubSpot, Klaviyo, and so on.
Perfect. So, back to you. How did you start the business? Take us back from idea to launch.
So Oribi is my third startup company. Each company was very different. I studied architecture when I was just about to graduate. I decided that it's not for me and wasn't sure what to do with my life. And that led me to my first company that was around 2D and 3D modeling. And a few years after I started, it was acquired by Autodesk. Um, then I started a different company around the world of developers, DevOps, that is still running and doing well. And for both of these companies, I used to manage the marketing and the product. And when I decided that I want to start a new company, I decided I want to touch on one of the main pains that I experienced, and lots of other companies I knew at the same time experienced as well. And that's around asking the very, very basic questions that all companies ask about their audiences and about marketing. So, just to understand if people that read my blog actually buy more, what is unique about people that sign up, how do different channels behave, and it was always amazing to me how much effort companies with exactly the same questions need to put in order to answer them. How much dev resources, how much integrations, reports, and so on. And our goal to Ruby is to simplify this process and to have all companies become more data oriented without all the headache around it.
Awesome. So, being a serial entrepreneur, what is your most valuable lesson up to this point?
I would say that probably the most valuable lesson is around focus. I think that's something that happens to many companies. There's always more things to do, and I always feel that like I have amazing ideas with marketing, and let's try out this channel, and let's add this feature, and let's try maybe approaching a different audience because we see that there's an opportunity over there. And that's something that I really learned over the past couple of years. Is it's really really hard to build something that people love. So like never underestimate how hard it is to success in anything. If it's building a good marketing strategy, building a good product, building a good team, and to really like laser focus all the energy and all the attention on the core things. I think like most successful companies manage to grow by having like one successful feature. So, for example, like Google with search, and that's what builds a company. So, never to forget that we're a startup company to be very focused, to do less things, but in a good way.
Yeah, focus on the main pain points is really important indeed. So, back to the early days of Oribi, what were some of the early struggles in getting to product market fit?
So, something that um, with my past companies, I used to, and that's like the usual way to start working on a product is to get like some friends or beta users or people that you know, start working with them and get to the first version. With Oribi, I decided to take a different approach. And I decided from day one that all of the users are going to be low touch users. So all of the users are going to be users that we acquire on Facebook, on YouTube, and to really simulate the world of low touch. So it's one thing to succeed with the product if there's a friend that is using it and you can speak with him or her 5 times a day. And with Oribi, like the first user was someone that arrived from a Facebook ad. It was very, very important for me to understand if I can build a marketing analytics tool that is usually pretty complex in a completely low touch approach. So these are people that don't know the product, they see something on Facebook, they have very, very low intent, and they want to start using it. And I think that the main struggle was around creating an A to Z low touch experience from the right messaging of helping people to understand what is the value with like a Facebook ad that they see for a few seconds, to really understand the product, how to use it, what is the value, the onboarding. And this is still a challenge. So it's still something that we're polishing and changing all the time. To have someone with very low intent and some need to start using a new product and to get value out of it.
Yeah, that never stops. What was the feedback from your first users when they were starting to use the product, and did you have to pivot based on their needs?
Yeah. Well, we never pivoted, but I think like we still over the past years we have the core of a few features, and all we do all the time is to improve them. So that's something that I strongly believe in. I would rather have a very small product that all the features are really, really polished, other than having like a product with 40 different features. So the initial feedback was, first of all, that people really need it. So it's amazing to see how people are frustrated by current solutions, how everybody wants to be data driven, from people that like acquisition and content and social media and PR. Everybody wants to measure the impact, but it's really hard to do it. And there was lots of feedback about really understanding the product. So many of the users didn't really understand how to use it for their use cases, and didn't understand what to do with the data that they see. And the path that I see is all the time taking something from good to great, or from medium to good to great, and to keep on improving each one of the key features.
Makes sense. So, what is the one thing that you would say that has brought you the most success in either getting more customers or more revenue from your customers?
Yeah. One growth hack, I'm not sure it's a hack, but it's something that took me a while to have the courage to do, is to be very controversial with our ads. Um, our initial ads were very much about like simple analytics, no code analytics, or about the main features. And then we decided just to go head to head with Google Analytics. So many of the ads today are just around like frustrated by Google Analytics. At first, I was very worried about it because I thought like what people are going to think about a brand that instead of saying what we're doing, saying what someone else is doing wrong, how can we compete with Google? But we found out that it worked amazingly well. It really emphasizes the pain for people, and it really drove attention. So that's one tactic of being very bullish about the value and competitors that worked really well for us.
What is the most important acquisition channel to get new customers on board right now?
Probably YouTube. So I think that YouTube works best for us because we have, unlike Facebook and Instagram, we have enough time to explain about the product.
Yeah, video works well nowadays. At what stage is Oribi right now in terms of revenue?
But I can't really disclose the number. I can say like few millions in ARR, growing very fast. So we grew by 3x than where we were last summer, and also getting more and more companies to use the product and larger companies.
Love it. Great numbers. Well, thanks, Iris. Thanks for sharing the story behind Oribi. Now, let's wrap it up with a lightning round of 6 questions to inspire others. Before we dive into today's lightning round, let's hear a quick word from our sponsor. Do you want to build your product the best way possible? Then you probably know that listening to your user feedback is crucial in building new features that will help them solve their problems more easily and thus making your product more valuable. Upvote provides you with feedback boards, a product roadmap, and a changelog to make the process of gathering and managing feedback a lot more efficient. You are getting a 10% discount on all of their plans with the code PIRATES. So go to upvote.com and start your 14-day free trial today. Now, let's go back to the interview. If you would start SaaS today, what would be the first action to take?
Actually, the same action that I took when I started Oribi to start working with like low touch approach. I'm not sure about the POC, but something really small, and to start acquiring users just to see how the market behave, how people react to it, instead of start working with beta users that I know, to really test out the market and to feel how people react to the messaging.
What is some of your favorite software that you can't live without in running daily operations of Oribi?
Um, so Slack, of course, even though I would say this is like my nightmare as well. Always thinking of how to reduce the time I'm there. A tool that we really like using is Full Story. It's interesting because in a way it completes data from Oribi, while Oribi is more about aggregated data and user behavior. And I think Full Story is mainly about specific users and how they interact with the UX. Um, Something that we do a lot is that every time we release a new change or a new feature, to do lots of iterations on the feature based on how users are using it.
And what about your phone? What is your favorite app on your phone?
Um, Probably my meditation apps. So Insight Timer is a great app with this like huge library of meditations. I would say that this is something that I use a lot.
And what is your favorite book that you would recommend to people that are starting in SaaS?
Um, so I have to admit that about like 3 years ago, I took a decision to stop reading business books. It's an interesting decision because until then, I don't think that I read like a fiction book for like 10 years, and I just listened to podcasts and read the business books. But I decided to, when I have time, to read more of like fantasy and fiction books. I feel that so much around the business all day long that they want to use reading to rest.
So you're more into podcasts. Can you recommend a great show that you really enjoy?
And I think the SaaS Star podcast is really good.
All right. What SaaS brand do you admire the most?
Um, Not sure about Admire, but yeah, I can return to Full Story. I think this is like a product that we really love using, and I'm very much of a product person. So I think for me, it's less about the brand that I don't think is very strong over there. I mean, it's more about the usability and the product.
And what is your favorite SaaS person to follow or read?
I think right now probably like Dave Gerhardt. I think like very relevant to B2B e-commerce. So I find his materials very interesting.
Wow, great, Iris. Thanks for your time today and sharing your story with us. To conclude this interview, where can we learn more about you and Oribi?
Um, so you can check out Oribi.io. There's a discount of 20% for the first 3 months for people that can via this podcast. You can just write to us on the chat that you heard about Oribi here. Um, and they also have like a personal blog called Startup Eco. You could just like look Iris Shore, Shoor, on Google. I write mainly about startup culture and how to build companies. Yeah, and that's about it.
Thanks for listening to this awesome episode of the SaaS Pirates podcast. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast apps as well as on YouTube, where you'll find these episodes recorded in video. Also, if you're into SaaS, come and join the SaaS Pirates Facebook group. We would love to have you on board. As always, if you enjoyed this episode, please give us a review. It'll help us reach more people like yourself. Without further ado, till next time, take care.